As WandaVision is nearing its end, I want to make this video to talk about the show and what I have really liked about it so far. I did not think that this would be a show for me, but to my surprise, I have been fully enamored by this show and the central characters. Wanda and the Vision have become some of my favorites in the MCU so far, getting so much more focus and character development here in this show. I'm excited for the show to finally wrap up and all our theories be put to the definitive test in this finale. I hope it truly does live up to everything that the show has been building up to. I wonder what kind of surprises are left up their sleeve and what they have yet to dish out. I'm excited to see the finale, but a little sad that it's over because it has been a very entertaining journey of a show. I'm excited to see the making of this show that they are planning to release when it's all said and done. They have made a real commitment staying true to the era of television with the whole set production and sweeping camera movements. I know Elizabeth Olsen said that it was a real challenge for her as an actor, and she really nails each scene that she's in. She has such a great performance blending genres and eras of television, capturing each of those distinct eras of TV in her own way, becoming the standout star from this entire show into the MCU going forward. Another surprising standout star from the show has got to be Kathryn Hahn as the nosy neighbor Agnes. I think that she did a great job at blending in her performances with the decades, going from this over-the-top eccentric neighbor from the beginning to revealing herself to be the benevolent evil force that has been manipulating Wanda's emotions behind the scenes. In the 7th episode, it was finally revealed what many dedicated fans suspected from the start, that Agnes was actually the very witch who helps Wanda control her powers in the comics, Agatha Harkness. I am somewhat familiar with the source material, but mostly learned about Agatha's character from fan videos like post-show recaps and episode breakdowns. Marvel has done a great job at very carefully crafting the show through each episode, stringing along small details and plot points to stir up mystery and intrigue for dedicated and casual fans alike. They are well aware that anything they do is going to be hyper-analyzed by the most dedicated Marvel fans to search for each hidden detail to find a crumb of truth behind the mystery. So, they cleverly threw in some misdirects to throw people off the trail just for a moment. Just as in the scene where Agnes is dressed as the witch in the car, but seemingly tranced under the hex herself. They did a great job at threading along the mystery of this show, with each episode leaving you coming back for more week to week with more questions and answers. I think they did fantastic at creating a series with a production value equal to that of their blockbusters, really benefiting from an episodic format. The peak of the show for me was the build-up and anticipation for the 6th episode. There was so much buzz surrounding a special guest appearance in the coming episode, and I was living for the fan theories and speculation during this time. Regardless of the likelihood of any of it, it was so fun to be a part of that mystery and intrigue. I remember that episode very vividly. Vision starting to question his reality and even who he is. Then the doorbell rings. I was at the edge of my seat, anxiously awaiting who it could be. Then, a surprise, shocking to anyone, we see the silver hair belonging to none other than Evan Peters' Quicksilver. This was so exciting because the X-Men are my favorite Marvel team. So from this into the next Halloween episode, I was convinced of the larger implications of this appearance. I was so sure that this meant that we would be getting the introduction of the mutants in the MCU one way or another. Then, when we find out that Agatha is revealed to be the master manipulator behind Wanda, we learn that she actually staged Pietro's appearance. I was so much more let down than I'd like to admit. Marvel really got me good there. Though it might not be the Fox X-Men multiverse situation like I suspected, I still have a glimmer of hope for the mutants being introduced in some way through this series. Now, Wanda was never one of my favorite characters, a part of the larger roster of characters. I actually liked the introduction of the Maximoff twins in Age of Ultron, and have since gone back with greater appreciation for that movie post-Endgame. There were just so many larger-than-life characters with much more focus and character development than Wanda ever got. So coming into the show, I was a bit indifferent to the characters of Wanda and Vision, but I gotta say that this show has given me so much more appreciation for them both. Here we get so much more of a well-deserved focus and character study into both characters, but especially Wanda Maximoff. In the blockbuster, she has actually suffered a great amount of loss, but never given that focus to convey just how devastating that has been for her as a character. Here in the second to final episode, we get that whole emotional backstory behind Wanda and how she has gotten to this point of creating a hex spanning an entire town of people. This episode honestly really got to me and it hit me in that emotional core, which I did not think that it would. I don't know why I connected with this so much. I think it could be Elizabeth Olsen's great emotional performance, but I really feel for the Scarlet Witch. Here, we go down memory lane of her deep emotional trauma to visit her Sokovian home as a young girl. From the start, when she steps into the role of a younger self, I was already trying to hold it together. It's so sad because you see her with childlike wonder in her eyes, with the simple joys of old American sitcoms to bring her family together. Well aware of the fate of her parents here in their own home. Then, following the events of Age of Ultron, after the loss of her brother, she is in this completely new and different place, lost all the family she has known, very tragically. Though she is trying to find comfort in the light-hearted sitcoms from her childhood. We then get to see Vision enter and trying to console Wanda on the loss of her brother and be there for her in this time. This was actually a very sweet and tender moment because we see the beginnings of their personal connection, something we never got to see much of in the movies. In Civil War, they are seemingly really close, but we don't get the backstory of how that came about. Here we get the full insight of what sparked their connection together. Vision, being his cold, calculated self, does his best trying to bring warmth and comfort to Wanda during this dark time. And finally, Wanda loses that last bit of support structure that she had in her life, the Vision. After all that she has lost, he was the one that was there for her, taken, powerless to help him. Wanda's life is filled with this great deal of loss and emotional sorrow. My favorite episode being the Halloween episode, Wanda and Pietro actually have a heart-to-heart. I still genuinely like this moment, even now we know it isn't really her brother. I believed it to be true at the time, and so did she. Confiding in him just how she feels, expressing that she feels a great deal of endless, dark pit of nothing. I think that this emotional weight that she carries is what makes her so dangerous and powerful as the Scarlet Witch. In the movies, she has always been this ultra-powerful character with undefined growing powers, but now we really get to see the extent of her abilities and what Wanda can manifest. I think that the origin of these powers and abilities are really fascinating. After the loss of her parents due to the national conflict, her and her brother enlist to become part of these experiments involving the Infinity Stone. I really like this line from Captain America when learning about the Maximoff twins. This gives such unnecessary context to his understanding of them and as to why he would be welcoming to them as Avengers. He knows that they just want to do the right thing, but just misguided by the malicious agenda of others. Strangely enough, it seems to be alluded that Wanda has these abilities before even coming in contact with the Infinity Stone. As a young child, she stopped the bomb from going off with sheer willpower, and this was a really powerful moment in the show. was thinking to myself, if she has these latent abilities, does this mean that she's a mutant in some way? Possibly. We technically already got the introduction of the two very first mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, being Billy and Tommy, born with their abilities and not acquired through some outside factor. So, could this finally be the confirmation that Wanda has been a mutant all along? Only time will tell now as we go into the finale. Regardless, this has been a very compelling story arc for Wanda Maximoff and how she has become the Scarlet Witch. I have been fully enthralled by this show, eagerly awaiting each episode after the last. Now that the show is approaching the finale, I can look back and say Marvel has done a great job giving Wanda her very much deserved spotlight. I am interested to see what this means for Wanda as the Scarlet Witch going forward. This very well could be the villainous backstory to what she might become. It's definitely possible that Wanda can become the powerful force to be reckoned with in the MCU. I hope that Marvel actually does this, because if you are familiar with the character from the comics or TV shows, you'll know the Maximoff twins are more often than not enemies rather than allies. They did get to play into that a bit, but here it seems they are really setting up Wanda to be this ultra powerful villain with real deep complexities. I think that would be great, honestly, because she is such a likable character and many fans have grown attached to her and her story. I think it would be perfect for Marvel to make this move of having a complex villain, not just another one-dimensional antagonist that is all evil against all forces that are good, but dynamic characters with real complexities and nuances. I think that would be great to see. So, who knows what might happen next? We have yet to see and find out as this show comes to its climactic finale. Anyways, I'd like to hear your thoughts down below about the show. What do you think this will mean for the MCU going forward? Do you think we could get a final surprise cameo? Maybe a Magneto acknowledgement? What do you think will become of Wanda after the show is said and done? I'd like to know your thoughts. Until then, this has been Void Digital.